Okay. All right, so this is called the possible rational zeros theorem. So a couple of questions on the quiz, which you have a week from today, will cover, you will be given a function and you will have to find all of the solutions and all of the factors. Okay? So we need to know which zeros are even a possibility, because it will save us time when we are solving these equations. So I'll give you a couple more minutes. Go ahead and copy it down. And we're simply going to find our possible rational zeros. Possible rational zeros. So Descartes was cut yesterday because we really don't have a lot of time. So we had to figure out what we needed to cut. And that was on the chopping block.
Why? Because it was too hard?
No, it's because of time. That's what I said. We only have a week until our quiz. I'll pass out the quiz review on Friday. And then I'll make sure to post the answer key. Let me write that down so I don't forget. Post the answer. Okay, so when we're trying to find our possible zeros, we need to find the factors of P and Q. So I always, what did I So we need to find the factors of P and Q. What is P? What is Q? P is the number at the end. So your constant. Q is the leading coefficient. Okay. So let's go ahead and start with 10. What are all the factors of 10? What are the numbers that can go into 10? 1. What else? 2. 5 and 10. Q only has one factor because Q equals 1. The only thing that goes into 1 is 1. So our possible zeros, we don't know what our x-intercepts are. We would have to plug it into a graphing calculator, okay, to see where it crosses the x-axis. But the possible real zeros will be plus and minus every single last one of these numbers divided by 1. It's always easier when Q is 1. So the possible zeros will be plus and minus 1. Plus, I'm not going to put plus and minus in front of each one, but every single number could be positive or negative. Plus and minus 2. Plus and minus 5. Or plus and minus 10. Those would be our possible zeros. In your homework 13, there's a few questions where all you have to do is tell me the possibilities. Just what would be your possibilities? So you list all your factors of P, all your factors of Q, and then you divide P over Q. So let's look at question B. What number would be P?
2.
Nope.
Oh, my bad.
Okay, so P is 6. So what are the numbers that go into 6?
2. 1, 2, 3.
And 6. Who agrees that those are the only 4 numbers that go into 6? Can I divide it by 4? Can I divide it by 5? No. Okay, what is Q? So this is P. What's Q?
2.
Q is 2. What are the numbers that go into 2? 1 and 2. All right, so our possibilities, again, every single number is plus and minus. If I take all 4 of these numbers and divide it by 1, that means I would have plus and minus 1, plus and minus 2, plus and minus 3, and plus and minus 6. Now let's take those 4 numbers and divide them by 2. So let's start with the first one. 1 over 2, so plus and minus 1/2. That's also needs to be in our list. Now if I take 2 divided by 2, what is 2 divided by 2? 1. Oh Lord. Oh wow.
I'm a little sleepy
I got nervous. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Do we already have that number there? So we don't need to list it again. What about 3 over 2? 3 over 2 is not there, so we're going to add that. And then what's 6 divided by 2? 3. Do we have that number already listed? So we have altogether 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 different possibilities. Because remember, every single one of these numbers could be positive or negative. All right, now let's look at C. Because they're both positive or negative. Okay, what is our p-value? 12. So what numbers goes into 12? 1,
2,
2.
4, 6, 12.
Who agrees? Okay. And what's Q in this example?
3.
What numbers go into 3?
1.
1 and 3. So I'm going to take all 6 of these numbers, and first I'm going to divide them by 1, which doesn't change them. So I'm just going to relist those numbers. So plus and minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. Now I'm going to take those numbers and divide them by 3. So 1 over 3, 2 over 3. 3 divided by 3 would be 1. We don't need to list that. 4 over 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. We already got that. And 12 divided by 3 would be, we already got that. So this is my list. So in your homework, let me go pull my homework key real quick. 1 second. For homework 12, numbers, not 12, homework 13, number 41, that's all you have to do, is tell me the possibilities. 41 in the homework. Okay, so now that we know that, we're ready to start getting to the real thing. So let's go ahead and copy this down. We have a third degree function, which means I'm looking for 3 answers. And we need to find all 3 of them. So we're going to have to do synthetic division. Who remembers synthetic division? All right, I'm going to remind you, synthetic, there's two different types of division. The easiest one is synthetic. So let's figure out what our possibilities are. Our possibilities, numbers that we're going to test using synthetic division. So Q is 4. What are the numbers that go into 4? Plus and minus 1, plus and minus, what else? 2, plus and minus, can I put 3?
No, 4.
And 4. So we got 6 possibilities. These are the numbers that go into 4. Factors of 4. Q is 1, and there's only one factor of 1, and that is 1. Okay, so we're going to do synthetic division. So let's go ahead, make our little L. We're going to start with the first one. I always start by testing 1. Let's see if 1 is one of our solutions. This is a 3rd degree. So we need to find one solution to bring it down to a 2nd degree so we can factor it. Okay, so let's test 1. So we're going to list our coefficients. 1, -2, -7, -4. So 1, -2, -7, -4. For synthetic division, which is what we're doing, and if you all need to Google that or YouTube it, is synthetic division. We're going to bring down the first number, which is 1. Then we multiply. We always multiply it by the factor. So what is 1 times 1?
1.
We put that under the next number. Then we add. What's -2 plus 1?
-1.
Then we multiply the -1 times 1. -1 times 1 is -1. Then we add, what do we get? -8. And then we take -8 times 1. We get -8. And then we end with a -12. The only way, so because I did not end with 0, 1 is not one of my 3 answers. So now we're going to test the next number, which is -1. Let's go ahead and test it out. So I'm going to do my synthetic division again. This time I'm putting a -1 out here. Go ahead and list your 4 numbers. We're going to do the process again. You always drop down the first number. Then you take 1 times -1. You get -1. Put it under the -2. You add. You get -3. -3 times -1 is +3. When you add, we get a -4. -4 times -1 is +4. And look at that. We got 0. So my first answer is -1. So now to find the last 2, these 3 numbers are your A, B, and C value for your quadratic. So we have 1x squared minus 3x minus 4. Go ahead and factor that. Find your 2 numbers. We can do a shortcut, right? Because A is 1. Go ahead and find your 2 numbers that multiply to give you -4, but add to a -3.
Multiply to get 3.
They multiply to give you A times C and add to give you B. So what would be your 2 numbers that multiply to be -4 and add to -3? -4 and +1. So when I solve both of these, I get another -1 and I get a +4. So -1 is what we call a double root. It's going to bounce at -1 because we got that number twice. But it's going to go through at 4 because 4 has a multiplicity of 1. And we found all 3 solutions. Let me pause. What questions do we have? Yes.
How did we get to the 1x squared minus 3x?
Okay, so after you find one solution, your numbers in your bottom are A, B, and C.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that.
That's why I put A, B, and C. So this is a quadratic. And when you do that, now you can factor it. See, we can't factor it right here because it's a third degree. We have to find one. If it was a fourth degree, we would have to find two before we could factor. But a third degree, we need to find one, and then we can factor or use a quadratic formula. Yes, Daniel?
Just put it in quadratic form so you can start the factoring.
Right. You need 3 terms for you to factor it. Yes, Lauren?
So say if one wasn't like the number that was given to you, you just do that for all of the.
Yep. So the first number, I always start off with 1, then I do -1. Then I go to the next number. I would have tested 2 and then -2. And then if I had started with 4, I would have got that, and it would just been a different quadratic to factor at the end. Okay, we need to do some more. Let's go ahead, copy down this next one. How many solutions are we looking for? What's your highest exponent? So it's a third degree. Now, I never recommend that you use a fraction for synthetic division. And I always try to make sure that one of the numbers that will work will be one of the first 3. So in other words, you're not going to have to test 6 different numbers before you find one. It'll be pretty early in your testing. But you don't want to waste your time testing numbers. Like, for example, if I know that P is 6, I'm not going to waste time doing 5 because 5 is not going to work. 1 and -1 works for everything because everything can be divided by 1 and -1. Okay, so the numbers that we're going to test will be plus and minus 1, plus and minus 2. What other numbers go into 6? 3. And what else? 6. And because my Q value is 2, it could also be 1/2 or 3/2. So let's start off by testing 1. Go ahead and test the 1. See if you get a 0 at the end. So try to do your synthetic division on your own, and then we'll go through it. So you bring down the first number, multiply, add. Multiply, add. Multiply, add.
And when you don't get a 0, that means it can't go in it.
That means that that's not an answer. So the next number you would try would be -1. But I'm pretty sure 1 should work. 1 should work. Bring down that first number. Who made it to the end of synthetic division? Did you all get a 0 at the end? Bring down the first number, which is a 2. Multiply 2 times 1. What is 2 times 1? Put it under the 11. Add 11 plus 2. What's 11 plus 2? 13. Take the 13 and multiply it by 1. What's 13 times 1?
13.
Put it under -7. Add. What's -7 plus 13? 6. Take the 6 times 1. 6 times 1 is?
0. Okay, 6 times 1 is 6, my bad.
And then we end with a 0. This is A, B, and C. So that means so let's go ahead and put that. X equals 1, that's my first answer I got. So we got one answer. Now we need to find the last 2. To find the last 2, we need to factor. So we got 2x squared plus 13x plus 6. We cannot do a shortcut because A is not 1. So we need to find 2 numbers that multiply to A times C and add to B. So 2 numbers that multiply to 12 but add to 13. What would be my numbers?
12 and
12 in one. Let's go ahead and put your 12x in one box and the 1x in the other. Now take out your GCFs. So from the first top row, I could take out a GCF of 2x. The bottom row is a 1. The first column, x. Second column, 6. So my factors would be 2x plus 1 equals 0. And x plus 6 equals 0. And when you solve them, you get negative 1/2 and negative 6. Notice that all three of those answers we already had up here. So my three answers would be negative 1/2 and negative 6. All right, we're going to do one more and then we'll be finished for today. Yes.
Will those answers always include the ones at the top?
Yes. For now, because these are all real zeros. Now, when we get to 4.7, then we'll have some imaginary. Yes.
Okay, so after this one, did you use a box method?
Why couldn't I do a shortcut for the first one? Because what? So let's look at this one. What's the A value? You only have to do a shortcut. You can only do it when A is not 1. But if that's confusing, then do a box every time. Okay, but you only have to do a box when A is not 1. Yes.
Why did you do 1x squared?
Because
That's A. This is A, B, C. A is in front of x squared. It's always x squared, x to the first, no x's. All right, let's copy down this last one. We're going to turn up the heat a little bit. Now we're looking for 4 answers. And how do I know I'm looking for 4 answers? Highest exponent is 4. So our possibilities are plus and minus 1. So we need all the numbers that will go into 12. So that could be plus and minus 1, plus and minus 2, plus and minus 3, plus and minus 4. There's a lot. 6 and 12. And then if I go back through and divide all those numbers by 2, then my 2 fractions would be 1/2 and 3/2. So I'm going to save us some time so we're not wasting time and tell you that 1 doesn't work and neither does negative 1. Okay? The first number that will work is positive 2. Now on the test, though, you're going to have to try 1. Then you'll see it don't work. Then you would try negative 1. And then that didn't work. And then you would try 2. But because of the sake of time, and we got skills check, I'm just going to tell you that 1 and negative 1 don't work. All right, so we're going to try 2. So let's go ahead, set up our little L. And then we're going to list our numbers. 2, 7, negative 5, negative 28, and negative 12. Bring down the first number. Go ahead and multiply and add all the way down. And if you do it right, you should end with a 0. Nope, we can't do a quadratic yet because we got more than 3 terms. So this is a 4th degree. So we got to find 2 answers. We got to knock it down from a 4th to a a square. So we need to find 2 answers. So did 2 work for everybody?
Yes.
All right, so here's the thing. Now that I found one, I'm going to do synthetic division again. But now when I do it, this becomes my new top row. So I'm not going to use these numbers the second time. So I'm going to use 2, 11, 17, and 6. Now try -2. So after you find one, your top row changes. Write that in your notes. So we don't have to use all 5 numbers. Now we're going from a 4th degree, now we're down to a 3rd degree. So go ahead and do synthetic division with -2. All right, so did -2 work? So we got our second answer. So now do you see we only have 3 numbers? Now we're down to a quadratic. So we can factor A, B, C. So I want you to factor 2x squared plus 7x plus 3. Because A is 2, we're going to make a box. What would be your 2 numbers that multiply to 6 and add to 7? 6 and 1. And when you solve both of those, set them both equal to 0. I know I'm running out of space. You get -1/2 and -3. So our 4 answers are negative is +2, -2, -1/2, and -3. And that's as high as we will go. We're not going to give you a 5th degree. If it was a 5th degree, you would have to find 3 before you would factor. If it was, you have to keep going. But the highest you're going to get is a 4th degree. We're going to practice this some more tomorrow.